Hello, it's Tom Donald from the London Contemporary School of Piano. Today we are going to learn how to transpose quickly on the piano. And by the way, if you're a fan of our work at the school, you should get our resources kit from our website, contemporaryschoolofpiano.com, because it has all of the accompanying exercises and lead sheets that accompany these videos when you're practicing. And you want to sit down off YouTube, not on YouTube, but off YouTube at the keyboard yourself and practice these concepts by yourself. You don't just want to be watching videos. You want to watch the videos, get the information, and then sit down on the piano and actually try these things out. I see this mistake a lot. A lot of people think they have to have me or anyone else on the screen talking to them as they're sitting there and playing. That's good to some extent, but then you've got to sit down with the sheet music or with the PDF file of whatever it is you're studying, whatever the concept is, and work these things out on the piano yourself. It's so vital. Today we're talking about transposing, because the skill of transposing is often left out in so many people's musical journeys. They just never ever transpose anything. It's a totally foreign concept to them. And it's quite a problem because there are instances practically in music making where you need to transpose. I'll give you an example. If you've learnt a song a particular way, it might just be the chords of a song and you're playing it for somebody else who's singing with you. A lot of pianists play for singers and instrumentalists. It's a huge part of piano playing. And the singer will be, well, you know, I can't hit those high notes. Can we take it down a few keys? And the amount of pianists that say, oh, I can't do that. I've learnt it this way. You can't just ask me to play it in D major now. I've learnt it in F major. What are you talking about? Just that inability to be flexible and play the same thing in different keys and scales across the keyboard stops so many musicians, even well-trained conservatoire musicians who can play concertos, many concertos, very, very well to a very high standard. But then when they're in a situation where the singer needs it in another key, or it could be you're playing with a saxophone and the score that was sent to you was for an E-flat major instrument or a B-flat major instrument, and you just quickly realize, wait a minute, I've learnt it in the wrong key. I need to be playing it in F major. What do you do in those situations? Now, they might sound like a bit extreme. Many of you are just playing for your pleasure. You might wonder, why would I want to transpose music? Well, that flexibility, it's like an athlete. If you have that extra flexibility in the way you move and flex your muscle on the instrument, just like a sports person who's well trained, they have that flexibility to adapt to different musical situations. It's a real advantage. I'm going to show you step by step a comprehensive way to approach transposition of music and transposing music and exactly what it is and how to do it, so you've got some practical, easy steps into it. So it's really beginner's guide to transposing. I'm not going to give you incredibly advanced examples today. I'm going to give you the concept, but it's a concept that you can stretch yourself more and more with over time and patience, and I'll have a few slightly more harder examples towards the end of the class. So firstly, let's start with transposition, and you should get the resources kit from our website because it has accompanying material that will help you on your transposing journey. So it's just there to help support this video. So what exactly is transposing? It's getting one piece of musical material, it could be a song as simple as Happy Birthday or Mary Had a Little Lamb, and putting it in another key, starting it on another key on the piano, literally on another note, starting the same song on another note and taking it from another scale. So many of you actually transpose music already. If you practice your scales, if you sit down and practice a D major scale and then maybe you practice an F major scale, you have literally just transposed music. You have played a scale going up the piano, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and you've put that into another key. So let's start with a nice bite-sized chunk. It's what I like to call a micro scale with just 5 fingers and 5 notes, like a C major scale with just 5 notes as that. Now this is an interesting place to start because we can think of many great melodies that just use these 5 notes. Let's take, for instance, the beginning of Beethoven's Ode to Joy theme. It's this. Needs no introducing that theme. It started on the 3rd degree of the scale. 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and so on. So I can literally then try and perform that in other scales. So D flat major, I move my hand to the D flat major position. I'm playing Ode to Joy in D flat major or in D major. I'm going to go up in all 12 keys and play the beginning of the Ode to Joy melody. What about in E major? I'll accompany it with the triad chord in the left hand. F major. G flat major. Now, as you practice this, you will make mistakes. I want you to make mistakes, because if you do this, you'll know you played the wrong note. That's the great thing about this. Don't be intolerant to your mistakes. Your mistakes are shining light on what it is you're doing. I find it really interesting that, well, it's not even the fact that I find it interesting that students find their mistakes so intolerable. They're so offended by their mistakes. Imagine if it was the other way around. Imagine if you couldn't hear your mistakes. You couldn't hear the difference. Of course you can hear the difference. That's the blessing of it. It means that it is totally crystal clear that you missed a few tones and shapes in that particular scale. So we're on the key of G flat. It's a good example. It's one many students might slip on. I mean, C major. Yeah, it's less of a problem. It's very easy to remember. It's all white keys. But this is a less familiar shape. So let's say you've slipped up in a few of these keys. Then you just revisit the micro scale of just those 5 notes. Okay, that's feeling more comfortable. I've identified that semitone between the 3rd and 4th note in the micro scale is what I'd forgotten about. I did this. That was my little error. So mistakes are wonderful things. You've got to remember, when we're playing the piano, we should never take ourselves too seriously. That's why so many people are so scared of taking on these challenges with music, because they fear their mistakes, but their mistakes are their great educators. Your mistakes are the best piano teacher that you've never had. We shouldn't take ourselves too seriously. We're not heart surgeons when we play piano. Not what's going to happen if we get it wrong. So this is actually really useful, because our mistakes then give us feedback. They give us feedback as to what it is we need to change when we're in that key. So even if you're transposing that little fragment of the Ode to Joy melody, it could be any melody. You just get a bar of a simple melody, just a simple bar of a simple melody, and locate it in other keys. You can move up in semitones, or you could just try it in 3 or 4 keys to begin with that you're comfortable with, and just use your ear to give you that feedback, and let those mistakes guide you closer to the correct combination of notes in that key. And that is the first really important step to transposition. You're not trying to transpose the entire Beethoven's Ode to Joy. You're just transposing a bar of the music or 2 bars of the music. And it doesn't have to be Ode to Joy. It could be as benign and as simple as Mary had a little lamb. But that's just 3 notes. So you can really navigate your way around different keys. And you can create different patterns. Like I quite like going up minor thirds. into different keys, not just going up in semitones. Semitones is useful. Moving up in half tones into different keys is useful because you may be able to get a transposition into all keys in one sitting of the melody, of the 2-bar melody. So that is a really useful way just to break down a melody and transpose it. Just get a small amount of it. That is melodic transposition. But I now want to talk about a very exciting form of transposition, which is chord transposition, transposing chord patterns. This is really, really useful. This is where you are going to be worth a lot to the singers out there. When I learnt in my youth, I was very lucky because my piano teacher was a singing teacher, and at a very young age, she knew I was interested in chords. I was not necessarily the brightest of students as well, I must say. I had a lot of challenges with piano, but she knew I could read chords off a lead sheet, and she needed a very cheap accompanist who could accompany her singing students. So she said, okay, just play these songs. And very quickly, I had to learn how to transpose and put chord progressions into different keys. But I very quickly realized when I could transpose, when I could say to the singer, yes, you're welcome. I can play this in any key you'd like me to. Should we try it down 2 tones? Should we try it in B flat instead of C? Should we try it in G instead of A? My value as a pianist skyrocketed. I might not have even been the best piano player around. I certainly wasn't. But to the singer, be it the amateur or professional singer, they were like, that pianist can transpose. They can help me change the gig. Like, it's 5 minutes before the rehearsal. It's 5 minutes before the show. I'm not quite comfortable in singing in this key. Can we just take this down? That's a pianist I can ask that question to, and they're not going to, hurl abuse back at me. So that made my market value, you could say, as a pianist, far, far higher than even much more advanced, classically trained pianists who lack the flexibility. What a lesson that was for me. Such a lucky lesson to have at an early age. So for those of you who do have semi-professional to professional aspirations in music, transposition is an absolute must. So we're going to start with a couple of chord progressions, and let's start with the bread and butter chord progressions of music, like chords 1, 4, and 5, because they're the major chords of the scale. So a very popular pop music progression could be chords 1, 4, 1 to 5. It also could be classical. It also could be a 12-bar blues, right? The 3 main triads, tonic, sub-dominant, tonic and dominant, if you want to speak that language, but I'm just lifting the top 2 notes to get my chord 4, dropping my bottom 2 notes to get my chord 5. So I'm going to do a sequence of 1, 4, 5s, 1, 4, 1, 5, in this case C, F, C, G. Here's a good reference, Van Morrison. Right, but there's a whole bunch of other pop songs that use that progression, and it's also quite classical. I'm going to just do that in all 12 keys. D flat major, D major, E flat major, E major, F major, F sharp major, G major, A flat major, A major, B flat major, B major, so let's try it on some other types of progressions. Let's modify some of the chords, because sometimes when you're calculating chord progressions in different keys, the chords won't necessarily all behave inside the scale and fit to the diatonic scale. That was all 1, 4, and 1 and 5, all fit into the scale. Sometimes the chords will be modified by the composer. For instance, what about a 1 to 4 to minor 4 progression back to the 1? So let's practice this progression in a variety of keys. D flat. By the way, you should head on over to our website, contemporaryschoolofpiano.com, to get the resources kit that accompanies this video with the Transposition pack, which has these progressions all annotated for you, so you can start studying them now. That minor 4, just practicing that up the keyboard in all of the keys. So what we're trying to essentially do in our strategy here is cover all of the keys. We're getting as much coverage of all of the keys with a short excerpt of music. And you can get even short excerpts of songs, well-known songs, just little phrases where the chord progression may be interesting or desirable to you, and put it across all 12 keys. Try it out for size across the keyboard. This will give you I've given you the practical benefits of transposition today, but there's more than just those practical professional benefits. Actually, you gain a deeper insight and understanding of the keyboard and of music in general. You're expanding your musical mind and consciousness, which is really important. Sometimes it's more important to be able to explore that in your practice than just learning songs by rote. So if I just get a little catchy part of a Beatles song, Yesterday, for I believe in yesterday. Now what's interesting about that phrase and the chord progression of that moment of the song is it goes from chords 1 to chord 2, but the chord 2 is being turned into a major chord rather than it being a minor chord. We've modified it into a major chord, then the chord 4 back to the 1. So they're all major chords. Major, 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 1, 2, 4, 1. So let's try this for size in all keys. D flat. D, E flat, E, F, G flat, G, A flat, A, B flat, then B, then C, and we've covered the whole cycle. And there are other progressions we can try this on that are a little bit more, perhaps, advanced. We don't just want to try this on short and simple patterns. We want to then start to push ourselves. I think of the very first 4 chords of the Adele version of To Make You Feel My Love, which has a lovely progression. If I render it down to C major, I get this. And then we have slash chords now to add to the equation. We go from C to G major. Then we have B flat, which in relationship to C major is the flattened 7th of the scale turned into a major chord. That progression is used a lot, by the way, the flattened 7th of the scale. So that's one to note And you can even maybe write them down in a few keys. What's a flattened seventh of C major is a B flat major. A flattened seventh of D major would be a C major. A flattened seventh of E major would be a D major, and so on. So we get this for the progression: C major, G over the B. We've got a slash chord in the left hand, that B. B flat major, and then an F major over an A. And I get these little bass line cues. You can look for little cues to make it easier to transpose, like the fact that the bass line moves down in half notes, in semitones. I'm only going to do the first 4 chords of this progression. It's quite a lovely progression. And I can use these inversions as well. Drop the bottom 2 notes from the C for the G major, B flat as a root chord, drop the bottom 2 notes for the F major over the A. So let's try this in a few other keys. Why don't we try it in the key of A flat major now? And again. What about in the key of F major? F major again. What about the key of E major? E major again. Return back to C major, which, for many of you will be your reference key. And we should talk a bit about the bias we might have towards C major because of its perceived easier nature, with us being able to see all of the keys. Diatonic keys are all white keys, and then all of the extra notes are black keys. So it gives us a sort of, C major is sort of a very black and white scale. It becomes a useful reference scale in the sense of understanding the relationships between certain chords, which can be helpful for transposition. But then perhaps how do we wean ourselves off C major and no longer make C major our reference point all the time? I mean, it's a useful reference point, but as we get better at transposing, we might want to have other reference scales. Are there any other scales you like to play in that you could feel yourself being your go-to scale? F major, could be G major, E flat major, A flat major. No scale is necessarily on the piano actually that much harder than the other scale. It's just a matter of our memory more than anything else. Physically, they're no harder to play than each other, really. With the wonderful design of this instrument, they're actually all of a similar level to play. I'm going to finish off with one more exercise to go alongside with this. And if you feel you need some really well specialized coaching to support your piano journey, do visit our website and ask about it. We have a very small but specialized team of extraordinary educators. And when I say extraordinary educators, they're not just phenomenal musicians, as you'd expect from a world-class piano school. No, they're not just that. They're collaborators. They want to work with their students and find personalized learning plans that will help you improve and reach your musical goals, no matter what they might be. And I have found an incredible team of musicians and teachers with extraordinary teaching experience and problem-solving experience to help you with a whole matter of different musical challenges. So if that's the sort of thing that might be of interest to you, you should visit our website and ask about studying with our team. Geography is no longer much of a limitation in our world of amazing technology. We teach students from all over the world. But we are a small team and there is not necessarily much availability. So the last exercise, let's finish with let's say quite a funky little chord progression. Let's play a C minor 7. And this time we're going to not consider inversions as much. We're going to be a little bit flexible as to what inversions we use, but it will still fundamentally be the same progression. And it's going to be a C minor 7 to an F7. So the first chord is minor, the second chord is major in quality, and that's 1 to 4 in the degree notes of the scale. We get this. You can play along with me right now. And I'm just going to name the key and see if you can quickly calculate it with me. Okay, we're going to D minor now. G minor. F minor. F sharp minor. B flat minor. D minor. C minor. B minor. B flat minor. A minor. G sharp minor. G minor. F sharp minor. F minor. E minor. D minor. And I hope today I've inspired your musical calculator in your mind to start transposing things more on the piano. And I think that's enough for today. I hope to see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.